Hey, welcome back. This is 3-minute house review, but today we're not talking about a house. So today, I like houses because I like the built environment, because I like creativity and I like decisions people make and traditions and things, so you can kind of see how things get to be what they are, and houses really reflect that. But I love art. I'm a sculptor. I love painting. I love all the arts, honestly. But today I'm really happy to be here I'm going to review a book, which is totally different for me. This is John Chao, 50-year vision quest. So this is his kind of 50th year of his artistic practice, basically. And so, super interesting guy. Been all around the world multiple times. How to say this about John? He's his own person very much. And he worked for National Geographic, traveled on his own for a while all around the world, and he did his own thing. And so that's what makes this book so interesting. So I'm going to just give you an idea of the heft and weight of this book. It's a beautiful book. Yeah, that's him on the back there. And what I decided to do is to actually just choose a few of the photographs that I like and talk about like the significance I see in them. Let's look at some of the work. And it's a very narrative book. It's not just photographs. So there's a story at the end of each chapter of his life, and for 50 years basically. And the way he takes photographs is pretty interesting. You don't know when he's taking photographs most often. Like, he's very covert about it. He kind of holds up the camera and he's talking over here and he's getting something, which is amazing that he can track visually what's happening and still be part of what's going on over here, but that's how he does it. Here I chose a couple from his New York period, and then a few from Asia, and then a few more modern ones. So let's take a look at this. It's a color picture, as you can see, and what an interesting shot. So this car apparently just rear-ended another car and the policeman's walking away, but this amazing skyline and the edge of the bridge and the kind of the Gothic nature of that, that's the Brooklyn Bridge, right? And then John, were you standing there at the time? Were you walking across the bridge? Or were you in the car in front? There's so many kind of questions, because it's a moment, it's a witnessed moment. It's not an important moment. There's nothing very important about any of this, but it's a fabulous image when all those things are added up. The green lights on these buildings, and then this backlit cityscape. It's fantastic. And then also the way the police officer has light coming around him to define his very interesting kind of long coat look with the white belt that breaks it. And then there's this space where there's nobody here. So you have all this energy coming down the middle, like really pouring through the center of the city. And then there's an emptiness all the way to the right side. So yeah, I mean, that's what this book is full of. It's like photographs that you can dive into each one, honestly. Oh my God, this one. I mean, this is like Mount Rushmore faces of boring commute. They all are kind of facing a different way, yet they're all grouped. I mean, look at how she is just off in thought. And this woman and just their, oh yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And then the surprise, in another train going by, you have a face of another person, just like, what are the odds of that, right? How many pictures did you take to get this one, John? A little bit of just the dirtiness of this, the old style cars, the riveting, the ads, which don't really add up to anything, but they're important. And then this little bit of graffiti here. Yeah, it's pretty delicious, honestly. I mean, as photographs go, and then the sepia tone of this one's really great, with the intense darks and lights of the newspaper and her dress and her lapel. There's a lot of depth of tone there, but then the car itself is really has a nice sepia softness. So now we're going to Asia, and this one, I mean, this is maybe my very favorite picture of the book, honestly. So I mean, look at this layout. I mean, this composition is fantastic. The verticals, right? We got foreground, and then these background, and all three people are between these two columns, and then these faces. I mean, I can zoom in here. Look at that. Look at these faces. One face not paying attention, one paying attention to him, and then he's paying attention to us. And their faces are, their faces are so interesting. I mean, he's looking straight on with this earnest eyes, and he is imperfect in his own way. And oh, it's just, and then this white shirt and the black columns, and there's nothing else in this room. So this is probably Tibet or China. And then the little capitals or the bases of these columns, with that really nothing else, just a little bit of perspective from the block floor, that's pretty freaking cool. So I love that. The two I've shown you don't have really any narrative, but there's lots of pages of narrative in here where you really get to go along with John on his memories of these trips and his interesting perspective of these trips and where he was in his life and how he got this particular opportunity. So it's definitely worth, it's not just a picture book, it's definitely a narrative of the 50 years of his art practice. But this one is fully National Geographic in its spirit, for sure, to me. I mean, I love he's wearing all adult clothes and he's just such a little tiny guy. And then this road that goes to nowhere, and it's like, how far have they been walking and how far will they walk and where are they walking past? There's so many more questions than answers in this photograph. So, and then once again, he's really, these winter photographs, where you see really black and white and then a little bit of warmth and humanity, but not much. I mean, there's not much outside of that. There's a little brown in this bush, but then you fully get to the red and the skin and the hat and the blue. So it's like these little beings in this very hostile, cold world. It's just, I mean, it's an amazing picture, honestly, really an amazing moment that you were there. Were you walking with them? Were you walking counter to them? How did this happen? So many questions. All right, this is another very National Geographic moment, but it is good for that. And I love National Geographic, and I think that this book is better than any particular National Geographic in that there's this kind of exotic places and styles, and there's just this mastery of composition that I see here. So this is the Patala Palace, is what it says in Lhasa, Tibet. And I think these are Chinese tourists who are here. So there's a big narrative about, John goes way back in his concern and love for Tibet, and he's met and knows the Dalai Lama. And so it's a big part of his life. And so, but the interesting thing about this very postcard image here with this sky and the way the mountains kind of come down, and that's partially the architect's beauty in that, right, to design this. But here is these two faces, and they're very similar. One with this kind of almost Maoist Communist Party cap, and the other one with a very Western kind of baseball cap. But they're a couplet, and they're facing away from each other. But you can tell by the wrinkles here, it's like in the same wrinkles here that we're seeing two of a set, kind of, right? And one's forward, and the energy they're giving, and the way his eyes seem to be coming across, not looking right at us, but kind of across. It's something, there's just a lot of tension. And then this guy's eyes, looking into the distance. So it's the composition, stupid. I mean, it really is great. And the colors, once again, we have a really dark darks, and we have some really bright brights, and then this middle sepia. All right, so out of that phase, he really moves into a little more than midway through the book. You see his development, and I'm thinking this is in the 90s, of multiple images combined into one image. And this, I think, is really an interesting development for him. And I think for the viewer, it's super interesting developmentally also, because like in this picture, the scene is set by this main image up here of these trees, these autumnal trees. But then the foreground is made up of 12, 15, 20 pictures. And that is, so once the scene is set, then now he's telling us how to look, because he did these pictures. So we're retracing his steps of his attention. He's curating our experience by showing us where his attention went and allowing us to follow that. And that's just super adventurous and interesting. And I think that technology in a lot of ways has caught up with him in the way that you can stitch images together now to do a big a montage or one photograph from a lot of photographs. I like the way that that's not how this is. There's different lighting on some of these images, like the colors are different here. I think he may have zoomed in on some. It's hard to understand, but the light changes from image to image. So, and then they're not orthogonal too. They're really interesting in what he captures and how. So I'm not going to give away. I mean, I don't know his secrets, but so I don't have them to give away. You should ask John though. I'm sure he will tell you. Same thing. So we have this, the scene is set. We're in this very suburban neighborhood, also in winter or fall. No color, obviously, it's black and white. But then there's this kind of catastrophic, like folly is dead feeling, like all these toys on the curb and they're all piled up, and it's at a big wheel, and yeah, it's a bunch of children's stuff with this awful bunny on the top, and or two big wheels. So yeah, once again, the scene is set, and we dive into each particular thing and the way these images stack on one another, all, like culminating with this rabbit face that's looking off in the distance like it's dead. That's a powerful image, John. So, all right. So that was kind of late in the book. That's not nearly the end. I would say the culmination of his career really was this time at Standing Rock. And so I'll show you in the book. First of all, it's in the end pages. It's a little bit of this photograph, and it's really an amazing photograph, and then also in the back. But then there's a fold out, and I'm going to show you just how big it is here, and then I'm going to zoom in on it. So it's a large picture. So this is, once again, the life is sucked out of this landscape, except for this civilization, right? This village, this ad hoc village which is there to protest the pipeline, to protect the land. And this, look in here. Look at these tents and just individual people. Really fabulous montage. And this was like hundreds of pictures put together. You can see how big it is there on the desk. So it really is something special that he captured this. It shows humans' relationship with nature, and it shows kind of like the heartbeat and the warmth of hope, right? And of protest. Like protest is keeping something alive that's counter to something else, that's in the face of something else. And this photograph is just so beautiful in its coloring mostly. Of course, its composition. This composition is fantastic because it doesn't show the edges of the village, right? Like it just shows you a continuous band of life across the middle of this, Dakota sky and these hills in the foreground. So it's masterfully done for sure. And yeah, it's such a great culmination, because I think after this time in his career, then he really started working on the book, and that was its own big creative endeavor. So so I like to think that that's kind of the culmination of the work that is like captured in this book, although the book itself is part of that in a funny way. So I really recommend this book. Like I said, I am not big into buying a lot of books to have around, but this one especially has a lot of value and a lot of beauty in it. Photographs nowadays are ubiquitous, right? It's like good music. There are beautiful photographs everywhere. It's hard to know how to get into that, but this I can get into. There's enough here. So I'm Archer. This is not a house. This is a book. And yeah, I'm just really impressed, John. I think you've done a masterful thing by bringing this all together. Look at that picture on the front. Do you see that? That is awesome. That is an awesome image. So great work. And where can you get this? It's called Keep Life Pure. I really hope that you will seek out this book to buy a copy of it, because you will not be sorry to have this on your table to pick it up periodically when you're trying not to be on your phone. I'm Archer. This is not a house. This is a book. I'm happy you're here. Thanks for watching my videos, and tune in next time.